Welcome to Math 3410. I'm going to discuss the expectations in this course, and we'll start by going over the course syllabus. So this is an online course. I have office hours that you can sign up for here. I ask that you make them in advance, as that's most ideal. Our primary form of communication in this course is going to be through email. So I have a few things that I ask that you keep in mind for correspondence. So the first and the main thing is just to have a template for correspondence. It helps me a lot to be able to assist you. If you can just take a screenshot of what you're having trouble with. And that just saves a lot of time and is very clarifying. It also helps me if you can tell me what class you're in, so just put Math 3410 in the subject line and your name somewhere ideally. Okay. Optionally, you can include your W number. Now, when you email me with correspondence, sometimes I could have a lot of emails coming in, so just know that it could take 1 to 2 days. I am not available on the weekends, and except for office hours after 5, I'm very limited. So just keep in mind that if you're emailing me on the weekend, if you're emailing me after 5, it could take longer for a response. Okay. The course coverage here corresponds to these topics. And part of this topic of analyzing data, that includes using software. And we're going to emphasize that software in this class. Okay. So that could include software, includes the type of statistics that you calculate with software. It includes data visualization. Okay. There will be applications and uses of case studies in statistics and probability. Okay. I mentioned that you're going to use software. The software we're going to use is Python, and for most of us, you can just use Google Colab in this class. However, you'll also use it in your textbook. The required textbook is a zybook. And there you have animations that correspond to Python code, and you also have Python code itself that you'll be able to execute. Now, if you don't know anything about Python, that's completely okay. The textbook teaches you about how to use the software and the commands, as well as the underlying principles of it, such as why you want to visualize your data this way, why you want to compute the statistics or perform a certain type of analysis. Okay. So you will need a subscription to zybook, and you can just click on any of the zybook assignments. Okay. How you're going to be graded is listed as follows. Okay. I want to emphasize that your zybook participation is 20% of your grade. That is the same amount as your final exam. Your weekly homework is also 20% of your grade. That is the same amount as your final exam. Then you have 2 exams in this course. Okay. The exams are going to be online and they're going to be proctored. You're going to have a review for each exam, but not for your final exam. Okay. Your overall percentages or weighted percentages in this course, so they correspond to these letter grades. So you get an 85%, that corresponds to a grade of B. Okay. Let's click on this home page. So this is the orientation to the class. And what you need to do each week is laid out in the module. So in week 1, you have the syllabus quiz. You also have the statistical and computational tools. So this syllabus quiz is counted under the category your homework. The statistical and computational tools is listed under your Zybook assignment. Okay. In week 2, you have data collection, data exploration. And so this is your Zybook assignment. Then this is your homework, your data collection quiz. This is also your graphs probability and hypothesis testing. That is a quiz, and these two, the data collection and the graphs, those two quizzes correspond to your homework. Okay, I recommend doing the Zybook first, and the due date is reflected of that. Okay, so this is generally how the course is going to go. So the next week, you're going to have a Zybook assignment, probability part 1, then you're going to have a quiz that corresponds to your homework. It'll keep going this way for several weeks until your first exam. Okay, so here you'll have exam 1, you'll take that, and you'll have a practice exam. Okay, then you'll also have a project checkpoint. Okay, so that in week 7, it's mainly about your exam, and then just checking in with your project. Okay, then after that, it continues in the same way, and you have Zybook assignments, you have quizzes until your second exam. Okay, then it continues like that after your second exam until your final exam, in which week you submit your final exam and you submit your final project. Okay, so that is the general format of this course. I just wanted to click on one of these weeks and just mention a few things. So when you click on your Zybook assignment, so for example, data exploration and collection or statistical and computational tools, your setup's going to look different than it does for me. But as a student, you'll have to make a subscription and subscribe to your Zybook. So it costs about the same as the textbook. Then your reading, it's linked to this assignment. So this talks about data collection, and here this is a topic on statistics for data science. It's talking about data collection, and it goes through this little flow chart of how the workflow is processed. Okay, so you start with your data collection, and then it continues in this way, talking about types of studies that you might collect, and then how to present your data and communicate it. So with this graph that communicates probability, with certain items called inferential statistics. Okay, then drawing your conclusions from your data once you've gone through this process. Okay, so that's an animation that describes this, and then this goes into a little bit of detail of this. So it started with the data collection. To collect data, you have to sample, and it talks about this, and it goes through a little bit of an animation. Okay, so you'll continue in this way. Then you have a little Python interface right here, and you're asked to execute some code. Okay, and then you're asked, your assignment involves other things. So that was just one section. Here's your second section of your second assignment, and it's on graphing. And here you have to learn about what's called the matplotlib package in Python, and it's used to plot your graphs and display it. Okay, so this is a lesson on matplotlib right here, and it goes through this, and then you'll continue in this way, and you can see the sections that are involved here. Okay. The overall flow of this course is sections 1 through 12, starting with statistical and computational tools. The next topics would be data exploration and collection, and talking about probability all the way up to regression. Okay, and so this is the general flow of this course. Okay, so the assignment of statistical and computational tools in zyBooks is right here, and then I just want to mention your homework. What counts as your homework in week 2 is this quiz and this quiz, data collection and graphs probability and hypothesis testing. Okay. In week 1 you just have this syllabus quiz. So if I was to click on this data collection quiz, I'm going to try and preview it. Okay. Your quiz is going to look like this. So there's a data collection video, and for this week there also happens to be slides. Sometimes they'll just be slides and sometimes they'll just be videos. Okay. And you have this question here. And it asks you about how the data was collected. So this is what a quiz might look like for you. Let's look at what another quiz might look like, just so that you have a decent idea. Okay, so let's go to maybe week 5 here, and I'll preview this quiz. And then I want to point something out to you. Okay, so in this quiz, you have these video lectures right here. Then you have your multiple choice questions, and it's assumed that you've gone through your zyBook already. Okay, so it asks you to compute what's called the expected value of x, calculate what's called the standard deviation of x, and it gives you this question here about probability given this scenario. Okay, so this is what a quiz looks like, and by quiz I mean homework. Okay, these homework or quizzes that correspond to your homework, they're designed to help you with preparing for your exams. Okay. So I'm going to click on syllabus quiz here, and I'm going to preview that. Okay. So in this syllabus quiz, notice it says select all answers that apply, and it says there's multiple answers. So I'm going to select this answer and this answer. Okay. For this one, I'm going to select these 2 options and this one. Okay. And for question 3, I'm going to select these 2. Okay, and I'm just going to submit this. Okay, before I submit it, I just want to point out all of these are multiple answers. Multiple answers, meaning that you should select all answers that apply. Okay, so let's submit it. So when I submit it, notice for this first question, I selected a right answer. I also selected an incorrect answer. So someone might say, shouldn't I get 2.5 points out of 5? Well, the answer is no, because I selected an incorrect answer. You can think of that as negative points. So I select an incorrect answer, I select a correct answer, they cancel each other out. You have to be careful what you select. Okay. In this question, I selected 2 correct answers and 1 incorrect answer. So I got a small amount of points because even though I got 2 correct, I selected 1 that was incorrect. So I got a very low score here. Okay. Now in this one, I selected 2 correct answers, and so I got most of the points, but I didn't select all the correct answers. I didn't select any incorrect answers or negative points questions, but I didn't select all of the correct ones. So I got most of the points there. Okay, so this is just a warning about some of the questions. Some of them are multiple answers, some of them are multiple choice. And on the multiple answers, you need to be careful what you select. Okay, so just to bring us back to the recap, what you need to do each week is outlined in each week's modules. Some weeks there's some extra information, so like I have a PowerPoint here that's optional, but your assignments are the Zybook and your quizzes right here. Okay, again, I have some extra information here. Your Zybook assignment, it's worth points. And then these 2 assignments that are also worth points and count towards your homework. Okay, so what's outlined for you to do is listed in each week. Now, so I hope that clarifies the expectations for this course. I'm looking forward to a great semester with all of you. Thank you very much.